Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of Council of the Town of Petawawa to order for March 17th, 2025. Welcome to members of council, staff, and our guests in the audience. I'll start this meeting off with the reading of the land acknowledgement, and this evening it's my turn. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Omami Winini Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Omami Winini people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Call to action 46. We call upon the parties to the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement to develop and sign a covenant of reconciliation that would identify principles for working collaboratively to advance reconciliation in Canadian society. The recent progress is that the Government of Canada is working with representatives from the Assembly of First Nations, the Anglican Church of Canada, Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada, Inuit, the Jesuits of Canada, Our Lady of Guadalupe Circle, the Presbyterian Church of Canada, and the United Church of Canada to develop this covenant of reconciliation. Just before we do our moment of silent reflection, I just want to express that it is with profound sadness that the town of Petawawa received the news of the sudden passing of Jamie Bramberger. He was a passionate community leader in his hometown of Pembroke, whose dedication, compassion, and steadfast commitment deeply moved countless lives. On behalf of the members of Petawawa Town Council and the entire staff of the town of Petawawa, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies and heartfelt condolences to Jamie's family and all who had the honor of knowing him and working alongside him. Jamie's tremendous impact and legacy will not soon be forgotten, and Petawawa joins the entire Ottawa Valley in mourning Jamie's sudden passing. And now if everybody would please rise and join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that the agenda for the March 17th, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on any of this evening's matters? Next up, we have some minutes of the council meeting of March 3rd, 2025. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held March 3rd, 2025 be approved as printed and circulated. Any questions, comments, concerns on the minutes? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, we'll start this evening's meeting off with presentations. We have a member of our public here, Wayne Bando, who would like to do a little presentation concerning the town of Petawawa 2025 budget review. So Wayne, if you're ready to go, come on up to the microphone. Just have to press the red button there on the little box. All right, the floor is yours, Wayne. Thanks for coming here this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for giving me a second opportunity to come before you. I'm not here to discuss the 2025 budget that has been recommended by the committee 2 weeks ago. However, I guess it's out of date already with the amount of snow you've hauled in the last little while. My concern is for 2026 and going forward. First off, I'd like to just get clarification, if I can, on the footnote at the bottom of page 35, where it says D&D assessment declined 2.4 billion in 2024. Is that assessment or is that payment in lieu of taxes.
Assessment. It was assessment.
Assessment?
Their assessment dropped 2.4 million.
So what is, so what does that mean? How does that transfer to the revenue in town?
$60,000 lost in revenue.
60,000?
$60,000.
Not 2.4 million.
No.
Because on your sheets,
$2.4 million in assessment.
yeah, on your sheets you have a big drop in revenues from 2023 to 2024.
So that's on account of some buildings on the garrison that have been demolished. So the total amount of assessment that had been demolished caused a reduction in 2.4 million. And in terms of PILT taxes collected by the town of Petawawa, that resulted in a drop of $60,000 less revenue. So the buildings that were torn down were worth 2.4 million, but that results in a $60,000 decrease in PILT collected.
So then the revenue drop from 2023 to 2024 was not due to changes from D&D, because the revenue dropped from 19 million to 15.8 million.
I'm not sure what numbers you're referring to, but Christine, you.
So council does remember the town did receive a one-time lump sum payment for retroactive business education taxes, as well as one-time payment for development on the garrison going back 3 years. So it is an anomaly, but it's due to one-time payments that were received in 2023.
Okay. So thank you. So you're not in the same position as the city of Ottawa then, where they've incurred a major revenue drop from federal government, which is going to carry on for a number of years. Anyway, carrying forward then is basically you had this revenue drop from 2023 to 2024 and now carrying into 2025. And basically your 2025 budget was trying to find money at the end of the process for your capital projects. Basically, the town has incurred a significant increase in staffing levels from 2023 to 2025, which, based on the numbers that were presented to the public, is around $850,000. My concern is that if you don't maintain your capital expenditures, you're going to fall further and further behind. Going forward into 2026, you already are carrying forward $500,000 in debenture payments to start your capital projects without, initiating any new projects. So on top of that, if you want to have additional projects, you're going to have to find revenue. And basically the forecast that is in your documents is that you're looking for a revenue increase of $2 million from 2025 to 2026, going from 15.8 million to 17.8 million. If you're scrambling to find money this year with a 5% increase, and you want $2 million more next year, your mill rate increase is going to be substantial, because basically the number of new houses on the horizon only give a limited amount of funds. For 2025, you're saying around $100,000 between residential and commercial. So basically, going forward, I'm just going to be sort of watching this, how you come up with this extra $2 million to meet the forecast that you have presented in this document. The other issue is some of the items that the public is seeing, and one is the comfort, the Petawawa Junction Comfort Station. You had the grand opening in August the 29th of 2024, and then the place seems to have gone dormant. Very few people of the public have gotten access to use it in the last 6 months. Basically, trying to just determine what is council's strategy on fully utilizing that particular facility. I know you got certain money set aside for improved access from Petawawa Boulevard into the site, but anyway, people are certainly not happy with the fact that that particular building has sat idle roughly for 6 months. Also, going forward, and it came up at the meeting 2 weeks ago, is that when the town is coming up with a new project, it would be prudent if they do hold the public information center before it goes to tender, that if there's comments from the public in the area, that they can be incorporated into the tender documents and not having to say, well, it's too late to change it now, we awarded the tender. Anyway, so thank you very much, and good luck with your 2025 budget, and looking forward to the first draft of 2026.
Well, thanks, Wayne. If you could just press your button on your microphone there. Thank you. Thanks for coming out and expressing your concerns again. It's always good to have the public come out and provide us with feedback on everything that we're doing here in the town of Petawawa. Most of what you brought forward here this evening, I think I provided you with some comprehensive answers last Monday. It was a similar line of questioning. I think the one thing I will add, though, because you did come up, mention something that was a bit new from last week, and that's in regards to the 2026 and all of the budgets coming forward. So we are doing something new, that we're having a 5-year forecast of the budget. So looking long term, especially in terms of the infrastructure we might need. And yeah, you are correct. We're forecasting in 2026 that we're looking for another 2 million. But much like this year, where we were looking for other money as well. But in the end, we felt it prudent to set our tax increase a little lower and push a lot of the projects forward into the 2026 year. So in terms of next year, when we're looking for $2 million again, we're not going to put that on the backs of the taxpayers, because obviously that would be a huge levy increase. But we're going to pick and choose our infrastructure projects that we feel are the most urgent and necessary to keep the town of Petawawa running smoothly. And once again, we'll be forced to push some projects ahead to 2027. It's just the grim reality of municipal politics these days, where everybody's searching for funding, and we can't put it on the backs of the taxpayers. So we try and do everything we can at that moment with the best interests of the town in mind. So although we may want to do all of those, the reality is we're not going to be able to. Okay. So again, thanks for coming out and expressing your concerns again. Okay, we'll go into bylaws. First up, we have bylaw 1734/25, being a bylaw to adopt estimates of all sums required for municipal water and wastewater purposes for the 2025 fiscal year. I need a motion for first and second reading of the bylaw. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Roots, that bylaw 1734/25, being a bylaw to adopt estimates of all sums required for municipal water and wastewater purposes for the 2025 fiscal year, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1734/25, being a bylaw to adopt estimates of all sums required for municipal water and wastewater purposes for the 2025 fiscal year. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1734/25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1734/25. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1734/25 be read a third and final time and pass. Are there any questions or comments on the bylaw? And I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1734-25, being a bylaw to adopt estimates of all sums required for municipal, water, and wastewater purposes for the 2025 fiscal year. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1734-25, the 17th day of March 2025.
And with that, the town of Petawawa has a budget for the 2025 year. I'd like to thank council for all of their work and discussions and the public budget meeting and all the meetings we had concerning the budget. It was a long process, but I think we got it done in a timely fashion, and it looks like we'll be moving forward with a lot of the projects we wanted to do, not all of them, but enough that we can keep the town running smoothly here in the town of Petawawa. It's never fun or easy to do a tax increase in the town, but I believe at 5% that we've passed a fair budget that provides the high level of services the town of Petawawa residents have become accustomed to. Big thanks to all of the staff as well, especially Christine and her Department of Finance, and all of the managers and directors of the various departments who had to cut and slash to get us to where we wanted to be. But here we are. We're looking forward to moving forward now on all of the projects that we budgeted this year. It's going to be another great year here in the town of Petawawa. We're looking forward to seeing all of what we had planned come to fruition. Okay, next we have bylaw 1735/25, being a bylaw to set water and sewage service rates for the year 2025. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that bylaw 1735/25, being a bylaw to set water and sewage service rates for the year 2025, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1735-25, being a bylaw to set water and sewage service rates for the year 2025. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1735-25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1735/25. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Roots, that bylaw 1735/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or concerns on the bylaw? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1735-25, being a bylaw to set water and sewage service rates for the year 2025. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1735-25, the 17th day of March 2025.
Just to put this one into a little bit of context, and as we say all the time here in the town of Petawawa, we have the best water system and wastewater system in Renfrew County. Every time you turn the tap on, it's always good, clean, clear water. And every time you flush the toilet, it goes somewhere and gets taken care of. But in terms of the rates, just to give you some perspective, so in 2024, it was $419 a year for water if you were a town user of water. So for 2025, that's gone up $17.33 to $436 for the year for water in the town of Petawawa. If you're one of our residents who was on the wastewater system, in 2024, it was $512. That's going up $23 for 2025 to $535. Those two combined give you a total price of $972 for water and wastewater for the year. Just to put that into perspective, and I'm not going to tell you what town this is, but one of our neighbors, for water, it's $931 for the 2025 year. And the wastewater is $698 for a total of $1,630 for the year in 2025. Where, compared to the town of Petawawa, you get the same services for $972. And I would argue they're even better. So just to put that into some perspective for our residents here in the town. Okay, next we have bylaw 1736/25, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1728/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 456/07 of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa as amended. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that bylaw 1736/25, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1728/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 456/07 of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa as amended, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1736/25, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1728/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 456/07 of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa as amended. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1736/25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1736/25. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that bylaw 1736/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? So this is the one we repealed from last week regarding the Barron Canyon Road property. Kind of a restart on this one. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1736/25, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw 1728/25, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 456/07 of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa as amended. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1736/25, the 17th day of March 2025.
Okay, next in the good news department, bylaw 1737/25, being a bylaw to appoint a building inspector, property standards officer, or a municipal law enforcement officer for the town of Petawawa. I need a motion for first and second. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that bylaw 1737/25, being a bylaw to appoint a building inspector, property standards officer, and municipal law enforcement officer for the town of Petawawa, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1737/25, being a bylaw to appoint a building inspector, property standards officer, and municipal law enforcement officer for the town of Petawawa. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1737/25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1737/25. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, that bylaw 1737/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or concerns on the bylaw? So this is the appointment of our new building inspector, David Sutherland. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1737/25, being a bylaw to appoint a building inspector, property standards officer, and municipal law enforcement officer for the town of Petawawa. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1737/25, the 17th day of March 2025.
Next, we have bylaw 1738/25, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, paragraph 5 of the Planning Act not apply to block 9 and part of block 10 in registered plan 597. I need a motion for first and second reading. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that bylaw 1738/25, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, paragraph 5 of the Planning Act not apply to block 9 and part of block 10 in registered plan 597, be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1738/25, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, subsection 5 of the Planning Act not apply to block 9 and part of block 10 in registered plan 597. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1738/25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1738/25. Moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that bylaw 1738/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Any questions or concerns on the bylaw? And that's for our proposed townhome development right over here on North Brook. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1738/25, being a bylaw to provide that section 50, subsection 5 of the Planning Act not apply to block 9 and part of block 10 in registered plan 597. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1738/25, the 17th day of March 2025.
Next, we have bylaw 1739/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with 2654799 Ontario Limited for the Radke Estates Phase 2, 1 subdivision. I need a motion for first and second reading of the bylaw. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sabrin, seconded by Councillor Roots, that bylaw 1739/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with 2654799 Ontario Limited. That's the Radke Estates Phase 2.1 subdivision. Be read a first and second time. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1739/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with 2654799 Ontario Limited, Radke Estates Phase 2.1 subdivision. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 1739/25.
I need a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 1739/25. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that bylaw 1739/25 be read a third and final time and passed. Are there any questions, concerns on the bylaw? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.
Corporation of the Town of Petawawa, bylaw 1739/25, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with 2654799 Ontario Limited, Radke Estates Phase 2-1 subdivision. This constitutes third and final reading of bylaw 1739/25, the 17th day of March 2025.
And that is the end of the bylaws. That was a busy bylaw evening. Okay, next we have correspondence. Under correspondence, we have a letter to the Ministry of Energy and Electrification regarding the biomass feasibility study. So if you'll remember from last year, we had a presentation by Torchlight, which is a company that's looking to propose or develop a biomass CHP facility using wood waste products right here in the Petawawa area to produce steam or heat to potentially power the garrison Petawawa, and also provide some additional electricity generation as well. Right now, their feasibility application has been submitted to the MNR, but it's being bogged down a little bit with government bureaucracy, let's say. So this letter is just designed to get out there to the new government here in Ontario and let them know how important a project we feel this is, not only for our area, but for the entire province of Ontario, considering some of the uncertainty that's going on right now in our province in terms of natural gas, which we use quite a bit here in Ontario to heat our homes and businesses. There is some potential threat to that concerning what's been going on with our neighbors south of the border. Not only the gas that we import from them, but the gas that we get from Western Canada that comes through a pipeline through the United States to Ontario. So because of that uncertainty, we feel the projects like this are very important as an alternative means of powering and heating our homes and our local area. The reason they chose Petawawa as a potential site for this is because of our large forestry industry and all the potential biomass materials that they could put to use. Not to mention the infrastructure that already exists on the garrison of Petawawa. It's already in place to be readily hooked up to a plant like this. So all we're asking here is that this letter be sent to the various levels of government here in Ontario, just to encourage them or to remind them the importance of this project, not only to us, but to the province. A gentle nudge, let's say, that they should get that feasibility study moving along. Are there any questions or comments on the correspondence? Okay, if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion then to get this letter sent. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that council supports sending the draft letter regarding the biomass feasibility study to the Minister of Energy and Electrification. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next we have minutes from the first up from the council and committee meeting of March 10th, 2025. I need a motion to approve those minutes. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabern, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held on March 10th, 2025 be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council. Are there any questions or concerns on the minutes? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have minutes from the public meeting of February 24th, 2025. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the minutes of the public meeting held on February 24th, 2025 be adopted as information. Any questions or concerns on those ones? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Now, minutes from the Petawawa Business Advisory Network meeting of February 4th, 2025. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Councillor Driscoll, that the minutes of the Petawawa Business Advisory Network meeting held on February 4th, 2025 be adopted as information. Whose turn is it up? Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have spoken to all the details in these minutes, but I am open to any questions if council has any. Thank you.
Questions on the PBAN meeting minutes of February 4th? Okay, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, we have two sets of meeting minutes from the Petawawa Public Library Board, January 27th and February 24th. I need a motion to accept those minutes. Moved by Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that the minutes of the Petawawa Public Library Board meetings held on January 27th, 2025 and February 24th, 2025 be adopted as information. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. So two sets of minutes. I'll just hit a few of the highlights from both. So we have a CEO hiring committee, which is currently approaching the end of its not mandate, but work, if you will, to hire a new CEO. So we're in the final stages there. And we have a pay equity study, which is well underway, like we're half or three-quarters way through that. And another thing, interesting bit, there's been a little bit of vandalism, people putting snow and sand in the book drop box, which has the effect of destroying the books that are in the box. So we had the sandbox moved to a different location, if you will. And then one day one of our computers wouldn't work. And upon closer inspection, it was discovered that somebody had stolen the RAM out of the computer, which is not even that expensive. It's not very expensive stuff. So what people are going to do is anybody's guess, but just a few little things that are going on at the library. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions on the library meeting minutes? It's good to hear that your CEO search is well underway and nearing its end. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, now we'll go to staff reports. First up, we have FIN-10-2025, Ontario Regulation 284/09, Budget Expenses. Christine.
Welcome to the world of accounting. I'll be brief with my summary. This is, I hate to say it, a checkmark exercise in terms of meeting the requirements when you do pass your budget. So the simplest form of explaining this report to the general public is we are budgeting for things on a cash basis versus on an accounting basis. You can call depreciation as the simplest or the most familiar for most people. So the analogy or an example that I like to give is saving for a car. Based on accounting principles, we would depreciate its cost over its estimated useful life, not actual useful life, versus if we were to actually purchase the car today. So it's really how are we funding those purchases, those cash expenditures today. We could be saving and using depreciation as an approximation, but it's just that it's an approximation. It doesn't take into consideration inflation and actual useful life. So if a vehicle breaks down next year, we may have only been saving for the actual cost of that vehicle that we purchased in 2018. So the approach that we're taking right now makes the most sense, because that's the reality. That's what things cost. So we budget accordingly versus, I guess, fake accounting numbers. Not that they're fake. It's just a difference in accounting treatment, in terms of how the financial statements are presented versus how we budget for things. So if your eyes haven't glazed over yet, I'm happy to answer any questions. But that's the crux of the report.
Questions on the report? Councillor Termini.
Thank you, Mayor Service. This has been a long-standing issue with me. The fact that our financial statements use accrual accounting and we budget in cash. So there's like that disconnect there. And it's like, to me, it's obvious why we budget in cash, because if we budgeted using accrual accounting, nobody would understand what was going on. It's hard enough to understand what's going on in the budget on a cash, like just straight up cash basis, let alone confusing things with accrual accounting. But my question is, if this report needs to be adopted to meet the requirements of OREG 28409, that's from 2009, and it's now 2025. So for 16 years, have we not met the requirements of this regulation?
So the regulation allows you to budget the way that we have been budgeting as all other municipalities. So it's just, if you can budget using accounting standards, or you can use the cash method. So there's two trains of thought. So yes, this was this requirement or this difference started back in 2009 when public sector accounting kind of implemented assets. So in 2008 and prior, those entities that reported under public sector accounting standards didn't have to capitalize their assets. So if you time travel back to 2007 and 2008 and prior, the assets of the municipality weren't on the financial statements. So all of our infrastructure, this town hall, the civic center, weren't being recorded as assets. They were just being recorded as expenses. So the logic or the push towards capitalizing those and basically mainstreaming, because capitalizing and depreciation and amortization are kind of a industry standard in the world of accounting. And it is kind of a roundabout way to force municipalities to look at their asset management planning rather than just taking a 1 or 2 year time frame in terms of, okay, what do we need to pay for tomorrow or next year? And as we've shown in our current budgeting process, forecasting out into future years so that we can take into consideration the bigger picture rather than just the short term. So you can go either way. We can go back, or we could start going with the accounting method, if you will, in terms of budgeting. The regulation allows us to go either way.
Thank you for that. I certainly have no desire to use accrual accounting for budgeting purposes. That would just be a nightmare. I could understand it if you're in Toronto and you've got, a huge finance department that can do this kind of stuff, but it's still almost impossible for the average Joe on the street to figure out what's going on with the budget if you've accountified it to such a degree that your average Joe can't figure it out. But anyway, so another question, what does this mean? Like, let's say recommendation that this report be adopted. So if we adopt this report right now, what difference does that make in our budgeting process next year?
Like I said, it's a checkmark exercise. It impacts nothing unless council gives direction for us to change the way we budget, which I'd rather you not.
Okay. Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions or comments? So if you're comfortable, I need a motion to accept that report. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody. The council adopts this report to meet the requirements of Ontario Regulations 284/09. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Christine. Next, we have PL-10-2025. Melanie, you've tied finance with your 10th. I know you two guys are competing, so you're even. Temporary use bylaw application Z185, Richard and Jacinta Hoskins, in parentheses, care of JP2G Consultants Incorporated, 255 Murphy Road. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we've talked about this file quite a bit since last fall. The proponent applied for a temporary use bylaw to permit an urban agricultural use and produce sales outlet on subject lands for a 3-year trial period. The proponent held a non-statutory open house back in November. Feedback was collected at that open house and included in the report as attachment 1. We had the statutory public meeting earlier this winter, and the written comments received from that public meeting were included in attachment 2. A few minutes ago in this meeting, the minutes from the public meeting capturing the verbal comments were approved by council. So basically in this report, we're providing you all the feedback we've received on this proposal to date. And I'm looking for a resolution of council supporting the proposed temporary use bylaw after considering all this feedback. Back in 2022, council passed a bylaw in accordance with the Planning Act, delegating the Director of Planning and Development the authority to pass temporary use bylaws and other bylaws of a minor nature. But just because of the significant level of public attention and greater complexity than a normal temporary use, I would just feel more comfortable passing that bylaw with a resolution from council directing me to do so. So that's the first recommendation of the report. And the second one is just in order to facilitate the temporary use, we have to amend the animal control bylaw because it doesn't meet all of the requirements that say you can't have certain types of animals in a residential zone. We took a look at the bylaw and are concerned it's a little out of date. So our recommendation is just that we exempt this property from the bylaw writ large, add that bylaw to our bylaws to be updated list, and be assured that the welfare of animals is covered by other provincial legislation. So we're not ignoring the welfare of the animals, they are covered by other legislation. So a draft amendment to that bylaw was also included in the report as attachment 4. So in conclusion, I'm looking for 2 things from council. First, directing me to pass the temporary use bylaw, and second, approval in principle to the proposed amendment for the animal control bylaw. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comment? Deputy Mayor Samer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Melanie, for all of that and all the work that you've done. I'm definitely in support of this. Unfortunately, I was out of the area when the open house, and I couldn't get to the Zoom, but just with respect to the comments, I don't notice any I don't notice any addresses on these. Are these comments from anybody in the community, or are these folks that are just within the affected area, that kind of thing? Just want to get a sense of what those comments sort of look like, please.
Right, we had to redact the names and addresses from the appendix. The reports were from everywhere. So people all across town, not even in the town of Petawawa, and there were a few from the immediate neighbors. But a majority of them were from a broader perspective.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? or member of council. Yeah, I'd just like to commend you, Melanie, and your staff for the amount of work that went into this in ensuring that if this does go forward, that we get it right. And I think you and your staff did a great job of, you know, making sure all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed in terms of bylaws and policies. Also like to commend the proponent himself. Expended a lot of time and money making sure that this is done right. And I feel comfortable, I guess, and confident that this individual is going to heed feedback and ensure that the entire process goes smoothly. He seems to care very deeply about this being successful. And I get the feeling that if there is feedback, he will make adjustments as necessary. And as we have said, this is temporary. So we're granting this on a trial basis, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and hopefully it's wildly successful and there aren't any complaints. The overwhelming comments here that we see in this document and we heard at the public meeting, it's been overwhelmingly positive. So I hope it works out. And thanks to council for all the due diligence that you've done and for being innovative. Okay, if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Roots, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sabrin. The council direct the Director of Planning and Development to pass temporary use bylaw application Z185 in accordance with bylaw 1549/22 and provide approval in principle to the proposed amendment to Animal Control Bylaw 174/2001. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Melanie. And that brings us to councillor reports. Deputy Mayor Sadler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was away for the first half of the month, but look forward to reporting on the second half of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I can report that 2 weeks ago today, I did attend the public meeting, the budget public meeting here at these council chambers. And on Tuesday, March 4th, I attended the Town of Petawawa Development Summit held at the Civic Center. And then I had a couple of days of doing interviews for the CEO position at the library. And I had a library board meeting. And I think that was it. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On March 4th, I attended the Development Summit, and huge kudos to Melanie and all the staff for an excellent event, networking like crazy. So I hope a lot of things come of it. On March 10th, I attended the public budget meeting as well as the library board meeting with James. And on March 7th, I attended the Business Connect event in honor of International Women's Day at Ottawa Valley Coffee. And again, huge kudos to Christine for her department putting out those opportunities to our business community. It was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the Business Development Summit, the public meeting for the budget, and there was a few meetings there at the airport, and that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3rd and 10th attended both those public meetings that were hosted here in the chambers. On the 4th, I as well was at the Development Summit. Job well done by all that were involved. There was lots of good information traded. On the 7th of March, I participated in the International Women's Day event that was networking through hosted at the Ottawa Valley Coffee. And then later that same day, I was at the Staff Appreciation event that was hosted here at the Chambers. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Roos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tuesday, March 4th, I attended
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tuesday, March 4th, I attended a Petawawa Business Advisory Network meeting, and the topics of interest at this meeting were the County of Renfrew Think Local campaign, the Town of Petawawa New Business Holiday Act bylaw, business grants and logos branding, and also a quick note that there are vendors that are wanted for the Petawawa Showcase, which is on April 25th, 26th, 27th. For more information, you can go to the website at showcaseinpetawawa.ca. March 6th, I attended an airport meeting where we had a virtual session with our new marketing person, Jess Curry. March 7th, I attended a town luncheon staff for appreciation and awards, which was very nice. And today I attended the public visitation wake for Jamie Bramberger. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I apologize, CAO. Been a busy couple of weeks. On the 4th, I too attended the Development Summit, and along with many of the councillors here and a lot of the staff, probably one of the most successful events we've held as a corporation. And we're already seeing the fruits of our labors. There's been a lot of interest from a lot of the companies that were there, and even from some companies that didn't attend. So it was a very successful summit that we put on, thanks to Melanie and her staff and all the other directors, Scott, our CAO as well. I think we're going to see a lot of positive impacts come from this summit. On the 5th, we had a meeting about our healing circle here in the town of Petawawa. On the 6th, I had an Ottawa Valley Forest LCC meeting. And on the 13th, an Algonquin Park Forest LCC meeting as part of my Renfrew County duties, where they presented their annual work schedules for Algonquin Park logging and for all the Ottawa Valley Forest logging, and also talked about how many trees they're planting. And between the two entities, there's going to be 1.8 million trees planted in Algonquin Park and Ottawa Valley Forest this 2025 year. A lot of the talk centered around tariffs and the effect it's going to have on our logging industry here. And as part of these LCCs, there's quite a few members who are from the industry in Renfrew County. And I have to say, it's not as bleak as I thought it would be. Southern Ontario gets a lot of its red pine from the US forests. And if that gets tariffed or dries up, it may actually assist the red pine industry up here in Renfrew County in terms of having another market in Southern Ontario. There is a bleak portion of this, though. There's only one pulp mill left open, and well, one that we can access here from Renfrew County. There is 3, one in Thunder Bay, one in Dryden, and one up in Temiskaming. There was 2 in Temiskaming, but they have since shuttered one of those. So the only source for our pulpwood here in Renfrew County is to drive it to Temiskaming. There is one in Maniwaki and Windsor in Quebec, but it's a 14-hour drive, and if they take it there, it's at a loss. So we're down to 1 mill for our pulpwood, which makes that biomass facility even more important to our forestry industry. On the 7th, I was at the Employee Service Awards. It was great to have so many people here and to recognize our longtime employees. Later that afternoon, I played in the Valor student-teacher game. We lost, but I didn't pull any muscles, so I see that as a success. Yes. On the 10th, we had a public budget meeting here at the town chambers. On the 12th, I had a county council meeting, which I'll report on later this month. On the 14th, I went to the Deep River Hospital for a medical recruitment meeting, and it had to be one of the most interesting ones I've attended, as they had an actual physician there to talk about the challenges of being a family physician in the province of Ontario. And it was a real eye-opener to learn just how difficult it is to be a family physician in terms of patient overload and paperwork and all the government bureaucracy that you have to go through to operate as a physician here in the province of Ontario, and to learn about how easy it is becoming in other provinces like BC, and which raises the concern that are we going to lose even more doctors now to other provinces that are operating under better programs than we have here in Ontario. So part of the talk in that meeting was, should we as municipalities and the county start advocating our provincial government to have a system that's more like they do in BC. Just to give you, I'll give you one snapshot. A family physician in Ontario has a 960-page document with various codes that have all the different ailments that you would experience with a patient in Ontario. And every time you see a patient, you have to then do the paperwork on another day and go find all these codes and enter them. In BC, there are 2 codes. One is I saw a patient, the other one is I did paperwork, as opposed to the numerous ones we have here in Ontario. And that's just part of what makes BC more attractive. I attended quite a bit of the public skating over the March break, the free public skating, thanks to all of our sponsors who made those public skatings free. I was able to take out our new Syrian immigrants here to the town of Petawawa, the kids, for their first ever public skate, and it was pretty interesting. And just to give you an update on the Syrian refugee program, we just got word that the second brother with his family of 6 and the matriarch of the family have now been approved to come to Petawawa. So within the next 6 or 7 weeks, there'll be 7 more members of the family coming to the town of Petawawa. Today I attended, of course, the memorial service for Jamie Bramberger, and we also had a meeting, the CAO and I, with Craig Kelly, CAO of the county, and Jason Davies, with regards to county housing in the town of Petawawa. It was a good discussion about the town of Petawawa collaborating with the county on various types of affordable housing and housing for seniors. Okay, that's it. Next, we have a closed meeting. I need a motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2, paragraph C of the Municipal Act 2001, S.O.2001, C.25, as amended, to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2, paragraph F of the Municipal Act 2001, S.O.2001, C.25 is amended, to receive advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that the meeting be closed pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2, paragraph B of the Municipal Act 2001, S.O.2001, C.25 is amended, to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees and labor relations or employee negotiations. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.